Welcome to Muay Thai Bones. Muay Thai Bones is, go ahead.
Library coffee.
Library coffee, yes. Library coffee is a condensed little podcast version of the Muay Thai Bones podcast. Our Muay Thai Bones podcast, if you're interested, is like 3, sometimes almost 4 hours of us talking on the road, often driving back from Chiang Mai. But the Library Coffee edition is us having coffee after Sylvie's trained with, filmed with someone for the Muay Thai library.
Yeah, so we film the session and then we come talk about it.
And we have had no briefing of what each other thinks at all. So we might be like thinking like this.
Yes.
This is just a fresh take on a Muay Thai library session, but we also want to bring out large ideas that are surrounding the session. So this session will be up probably in a couple of weeks. If you're listening on iTunes, it's already up, but if you're watching on YouTube, it'll be up maybe in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. But even if you don't watch the session, this is going to be an interesting discussion about bigger principled ideas that were buried in the session that you could study, but also think about outside of it, right?
Yeah, it's like first impressions.
So he is an elite boxer for Thailand.
You haven't even said who he is.
So that's right.
We just trained with Napapol. Napapol was a elite boxer in Thailand. If you look at these old magazine covers, there was a time when they called them the 4 lions of Thailand. So this is the Sing is what you say in Thai. So it was the 4 lions of Thailand, and it was Yodsanan and Weerapan, who are very well known, very big names.
Yodsanan is in the Muay Thai library.
In the Muay Thai library, and Napapol was one of the 4. And he just has this incredible, heavy-handed, painful boxing style.
Well, that's one of the interesting things about his boxing style. Not only is it totally compatible with Muay Thai because he's raised in the Muay Thai culture
and he fought Muay Thai,
and was a Muay Thai fighter. Thais don't see a big incompatibility struggle between Western boxing and Muay Thai.
Yep.
Every top boxer that we've dealt with, Char Chai, who's in the library, Yodsanan, to them it's just, this is how you box in Muay Thai, like within the framework of Muay Thai.
Yeah.
And it's almost seamless. So maybe there's boxing styles taught outside of Thailand that are, they're not as compatible. But training with him, you're definitely getting like Muay Thai boxing.
Yes, yeah.
Right?
And it's one of these things where like the transference of weight, the rhythms and the timing, he kept saying to me in the session, when I would ask him a question about like, with my foot going here, then do I do this? And he's like, watch the jangwa. Jangwa is rhythm and timing. And he's like, you know what to do by watching the jangwa. Like, it's not this is Muay Thai and this is boxing. This is the rhythm, dance to the rhythm. Doesn't matter what you do, get on the beat. Like if you're on the beat, it doesn't matter if you're doing disco or like whatever, funk. They go together.
Yeah, totally. So you were just in this session with him. What were some like big or the big principle
one of my
ideas?
favorite things, and it was painful, is he has this whole thing where you strengthen your wrist, you have tension in your wrist, but your hand is really loose. And I don't mean like don't make a fist, that's true, but his hand is loose. It's like
his fingers are loose, really. Right?
When I was learning how to play violin as a kid, I would hold the bow, and my teacher would tell me, don't hold the bow too hard. Like you don't want tension in your hand. And while I was bowing, he would snatch the bow out of my hand. Like you should have enough looseness that you can pull the bow out at any moment. And when I was punching, Nung is his play name, so we call him Nung, even though his fight name is Napapol.
His is the teacher, not the violin teacher.
Not the violin teacher, the boxer, Nung. He would stick his finger in my hand and make sure that it was open while I was punching. He didn't want it closed at all. So the tension is
I didn't
here.
even see him do that. Wait, your hand was out and
he'd stick his little finger in here, like, and he's like, no, like loose in here. And when he hits you like that, and his hand is like this, and he's just going like that, so his wrist is tight, and then he's hitting with this part, and he's going like that down. You gave this example, and it's very accurate. It's like being hit by the back end of a crowbar by the like curved end of a crowbar, and he was showing me how to do it, and I'm like, please stop touching me. It hurts so bad.
It's hard to even, I remember when he taught you this 6 years ago, because Sylvie trained with him 6 years ago when we were at Lana, and nobody even knew who he was, basically. Yeah. I mean, the Thais all knew, but Farang had no idea that this quiet little guy in the corner was like a WBC regional champion, fought for the world title, like fucking unreal.
Yeah.
He has beautiful boxing. But he taught you this thing, and it's like, it seems so counterintuitive that you can hit somebody hard without clenching your fist.
Right, but it's the same thing that comes up over and over again with these elite trainers and fighters in the library is, where is the tension? Like, have tension in the right spot. So you want tension in the wrist so you don't break it and hurt yourself, but if you put tension in the fist, you're deflecting the power from where you want it.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. One is, when you tense there, you're tensing all these muscles too. So you cannot let the force transmit itself to the end point, which is where the rubber that meets the road, right? The other component of it is his loose fingers takes advantage of a very weird architecture of the body, which is the knuckles and these bones, as they flow into the wrist, create a rigidity, like how an egg, you can't break an egg from the top. You cannot, if the rigidity of the punch comes from the structure of the hand. Yeah. Right? Yeah. You look at me like I'm crazy or something.
I'm thinking something.
Oh, okay. So the reason why he can hit you like he's throwing at the end of a crowbar at you is because he lines up these bones to the wrist, and when it makes contact, the tension of the fingers would get in the way.
Totally.
It's like you're fucking spiking somebody with your knuckle bones almost, and then it's lined up through the architecture of the body.
He brings his full body, like his punches have full body weight behind them, and they're not this like, bah, like I'm like, bah, they're so relaxed. They're just like, I fell into you.
Okay, but we're describing something that many people will not watch, so let's bring it into a larger idea.
I think that one of the things that I struggled with, and I struggled in this session, you guys get to watch me, if you watch the session, you get to watch me struggle. Yay.
Which is part of the fun of the session, is because you need to see a good example, bad example sometimes to see what you want.
It allows for a lot of correction, which is really good, because then you get repetition. But I think that I had a hard time not tensing my hand, and when you don't tense your hand, the overall alignment is much easier. I was still tensing my hand because that's what I do, and that's one of the reasons I was chicken winging, is that I could not get the overall alignment all the way up because the tension was going in the wrong spots, and so it like contorts. Okay, it's like if your car has something that's like been wrenched too tight, it's gonna mess up the overall
but we're talking
alignment.
about something that is very concrete in a video many people will not watch. We have to blow it out to a larger principle.
Right.
So if you never see this video, and please go see it, but if you're never going to see it, what are we talking about that's meaningful?
To me, what's meaningful is that if you take something that seems completely counterintuitive, like have a loose hand when you're punching someone with power, that the effect of that comes from and goes to all different areas of the body. It's not just that one spot. If you're like, oh, I can't not flex my hand because then blah, 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 is like, there's actually like 9 points that's connected to. It's not one thing.
And it's something we've actually run into when you were studying with Sagat and about keeping your elbow tucked. You don't want to chicken wing out. Sagat was very big on like, do not corkscrew your fist. It's not Nung style. He has a different punching style. But the thing about corkscrewing the fist is that as you roll that fist over, especially if you roll it early, that's what pulls your elbow up. Yeah. Because you're like corkscrewing, right? So Sagat is just like straight like this. Nung also does not bring his elbow up, which is important. You want that clean, direct power. But he's like, because his hand is loose, when you clench your fist early, I think that starts the whole, like what you're saying, the dominoes start falling, where tension comes down the muscle, the elbow comes up, the whole thing starts when you clench and corkscrew,
Yeah.
all your mechanics are off.
It's like if you're trying to throw a football with the nice little spin on it, but there's like a wad of gum on the front. It just kind of like messes up the whole thing.
That's a very interesting analogy.
Like weighted.
And so what's cool about this is there's ways to practice, like Sagat does it by not turning his fist. Nung does it by not clenching his fist.
Right, and Chai does it by going just at the very end.
He waits at the very end, then he squeezes his fist. Chai Sasakun, WC world champion, also in the library. This is all about boxing for Muay Thai. So Chai throws the punch and then squeezes at the very end to create the like shock moment.
Yeah.
But all of them have a relaxed arm coming out.
Yeah. Another thing that I really loved in the session that I don't think I would have been able to understand 6 years ago when I was training with him is he steps so close.
I remember this from back in the day.
His foot stepping in, he doesn't even extend his arm all the way out. Like there's this thing where when he punches, he doesn't have a full extension. He actually punches with it kind of bent because he's bringing his whole body. But that comes from the feet. Like you have to step all the way in. And then at the very end, he showed me, because I was crunching myself. I was too close, not from stepping too close, but from my body position being too much. And so he was showing me how you can hollow yourself out to create a little bit of space to basically still get the power when you're too close.
Okay, but this is very technical stuff for people that are not going to watch the video. So what do we learn? You know, I'm going to keep pulling you out to like, you're not going to see the video, but this is cool to know.
It's cool to know that there is not always be at this distance all the time, like step on this spot all the time. It's always find this proximity to your opponent all the time.
Which is a feeling
Which
thing,
is like,
right?
oh, I'm too close, I hollow out this way. Oh, I'm too far, I step hard this way. Like, you're working with a moving target. You're working with a living person.
Yeah, which is why you have to feel it.
So there's no like, oh, I can't throw that because I'm too close. It's I'm too close, so I do this other thing to kind of like adjust it.
I'll say also, when you do watch the video, you're like, he doesn't extend his arm all the way. He fucking does. He like is like a spear going into his body shots are just unbelievable.
I immediately regretted asking him about the body shots.
Oh, but you love body shots, so
I want to learn it.
You want to learn them,
feeling it was like
he steps so hard, and his arm becomes like a spear. It's unbelievable.
It's incredible.
It's actually kind of raining now onto us. We're at Starbucks on the edge of a patio.
Yeah.
We got awesome jazz music and the rain trickling down. We're in rainy season right now in Chiang Mai, which is actually, it's cool and nice, right?
It's beautiful.
Yeah. For me, the thing I'm bringing out of this that I could just watch it all day long has to do with what you're talking about, that deep step forward. Like boxers are really good at taking very wide stances with bent legs. So they're always like on shock absorbers. And when you watch like Tyson come in for his hooks and whatnot, they have just profoundly wide stances. For Nung, he takes these deep steps forwards on his crosses and his body shots and his hooks, and he like bends that front leg down like a shock absorber so all the weight, like you're like he's punching down all the time.
It feels like he's constantly like
he's like coming down
so
from above almost.
All of his
and this is what the weird thing is about him that's very cool, is that really high level fighters generate their power in different ways. Yeah. You have to feel what's natural for you in a set of techniques. For Sagat, it's like he's powering through with his torso rotations, right? And he kind of comes with his shoulder too. He likes to feel that power of his shoulders rolling. He's like rolling. For Chai, he's like pivoting. He loves the pivot like a turret. Nung does this crazy it's like a wave that he brings with his chest.
Yep.
And a lot of the session was him trying to show you this movement that he feels.
Yeah.
That which really is a basic motion where he allows his whole body weight to come behind the punch.
Yeah.
And then that step forward is like, to me, what he really does is he's like a wave rolling in, and then he breaks right when the punch comes out. And he puts his hand to his head, and his head and hand come together.
Yeah.
And then when the wave's ready to break, because his chest is like, it almost reminded me of like a breaststroke swimmer in the water. When his chest is coming and then as he's ready to break down, then the hand comes and extends out.
Yeah.
But this wave motion of his chest was really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
And I feel like you can't copy it.
I think that was part of my struggle, was that I was trying to copy it instead of trying to feel it.
Yeah.
Like, if you watch him, you can see that he is feeling this whole wave forward.
Yeah.
And
you can't copy it.
I can imagine it,
Yeah.
but I wasn't trying to feel it.
You have to, I think, you have to take note, figure out, oh, he's stepping deep, he's bending his knee, his hand and head come together. Okay, a few sketch notes, conceptual notes, and then you have to be like, he's moving like a wave. So what's my wave?
Yeah.
Like everyone, it's a fingerprint for him. Nobody moves that throws it just like that.
Yeah.
So you have to. This is one of the interesting things about studying with really high level fighters, and all of them in the library. There's over 80 hours. Is some of the elite nature of their skill came from them adopting finding their own personal like feeling in something that was like nobody else in their gym or whatever. And then, so when you train with them, you cannot copy it. The temptation is to copy it, like Carhartt's amazing floating chest on his kick, right? You're like, how does he do that? And you have to be like, no, I have to find my wave. It's a very big temptation to just try to copy somebody.
Well, it's like dancers. Like if you watch a dancer executing something that they're feeling, the thing you're seeing is the feeling. You're not actually seeing the technique. You think you're seeing the technique, but you're not.
Yeah.
Like anyone does the same technique, it doesn't look the same. So.
Yeah, and so I think a large idea, like I want to pull out these big ideas, is back to Self 1, Self 2.
Inner Game of Tennis.
Inner Game of Tennis, a mental training book, must-read mental training book. Talks about basically almost all coaches in many different sports teach wrong.
It's the nature of learning.
Yeah, he talks about the nature of learning and how you basically have to turn the inner coach off and keep looking over there. Turn the inner coach off and just let the instincts of the body take over predominantly
It's like a muscle
in the
memory
action.
kind of thing, like allow muscle learning.
Yeah, but it's not muscle memory because the idea that, oh, if I just practice this thing over and over again, I'll do it without thinking. This is much bigger than that, right? This is about feeling the body in space and then creating the pathways unconsciously, right? Instead of drilling something so it becomes unconscious, it's more like surrender to the unconscious. So anyways, this is a very interesting session because you're trying to like duplicate what he's doing and he's trying to get you to duplicate it, and you have to be like, no, I'm not gonna do that, copy it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna feel what that would feel like.
Yeah, and a lot of his insistent corrections were feeling rather than technical. Like there were times that technically what I was doing was nowhere near what he was asking me to do. And he was not like, fix that, fix that, fix that, but he was like, loose. He's like, relax, come up when you need to, blah, blah, blah. His corrections were feeling, not technical, even though I knew technically I was like way off the board from what he was showing me, but that part wasn't important. Like that part comes.
It comes, yeah. Another large idea that we touched on a little bit that you could take out of this, the style has so much power, but it's so loose. Like, it's made for
like
shadow
a
boxing.
wave is not tight.
Yeah, it's made for shadow boxing though, where, you know, you see people shadow box with the loose hands, but he's not like throwing his fingers in a lazy way, or I'm just loose. He's like loose, and then I fucking hit you with my crowbar.
Yeah.
In his shadow.
You're like, how did water just kick my ass?
Yeah, totally. Totally. So What do you think? What else can we bring out of this session? In watching you, it's very interesting. Like, we've secretly known that as a super clinch fighter, Muay Thai fighter, if you can start punching like accurately and combinations, remember that was something that was happening in the thing, you were throwing one shot and you're like, holy shit, I need 3.
It's a habit, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not criticizing, I'm like bringing up something for us to talk about.
Yeah, go.
Okay, go ahead. You don't remember?
No, because you want to talk about big ideas and that's a specific thing. So yeah, I know what you're talking about. I have this thing where I was trying to follow what he was asking me to do, and anytime I throw my right cross, habitually I'm done. And I knew, because he just had me do cross, hook, cross, I knew that's what he was asking for, but my body was like, done.
Because it's a habit of training, right?
So I have
and your
to
right cross is your power.
Yeah.
So, but what I'm saying is we've always known that if you can add punching in the hitting zone, like accurate boxing, it doesn't have to be full power. She actually has incredible power in her hands that's been totally untapped in her career. Like when you first started, everybody was like, shit, your power in your hands. That was the thing everyone was excited about.
Yep.
So it's sitting there like a gold nugget to be dug up. But we've had this intuition that if you can punch accurately with like 70% power in the hitting zone, it will make clinching a nightmare for anybody fighting you, because you can't defend both.
Yeah.
And fighters like Samson Hassan, who's in the Muay Thai library, was a fighter of the year. He was a professional boxer who was also a Muay Thai clinch fighter. He combined the two together. Long Swan did a little bit, but it's like this feeling like if you can fight through the hitting zone and then clinch, go ahead, baby.
I could feel that we did one round of sparring at the very end. And he wasn't hitting me hard. It was hard enough that I don't want that. But like the way that it doesn't stop, when it's like tap, 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 and you're like, okay, that should be done by now.
Yeah.
If you can do that and then grab, it's the same thing with clinching. With my fight last night, where I got Gyron, and so I'm like, I'm not fucking letting you out of the clinch, like you're just not getting out. It's like when you have a clincher like Diesel Noy, who's like, I'm just gonna hook the other arm now, I'm gonna go here, or like if you watch the Samson Pepsi fight where it just doesn't stop, the non-stopping of it is so stealing of your breath and soul. Like it's soul crushing to have things not have a pattern that stops. If you can combine the non-stop pattern of clinching with the non-stop pattern of punching, what a nightmare.
This is another of those big ideas, and we would probably touch on it in the future, is people train patterns all the time. If it's not 1, 2, 3, it's like 5 kicks and then reset on the pads. People train patterns and then they expect a break. Like everyone does it. When you train with sparring partners, you each kind of agree on your pattern together.
You learn people's patterns.
You signal it's time for a break. The other person politely gives you one. It's an unconscious habitual training, and you want to break those unconscious patterns, but you also want to be able to push your opponent into their pattern where they're waiting for the break, and then you do not give them the break. And this is the interesting thing about being able to punch through the hitting zone, where let's say you throw your 2 or 3 punch combination, now it's a break. But you keep punching a little bit. Oh, it should be a break now. They're ready for it to stop. Now you initiate the clinch. They're not mentally prepared for that. The problem if you're a clinch fighter, like how you are a specialist, they are just waiting for you to grab them and for them to resist you.
And you just defend that initial grab.
They like face smush or something like that. And now you're fighting for position in the clinch, and will the ref come and stop? If they're already with water to their nose when you initiate the clinch,
again, like waves, when you've been hit by 3 waves and you're like, okay, good. And then there's another one, even if it's small. You're just like, you can't get your balance.
This is the interesting thing, is to use striking, punching, in this case, as the way to like burn up some of that pattern anticipation, so that when you're ready to start, they're ready for it to stop.
Totally.
And then it doesn't stop. And people go into fucking panic right away, because it's like when you're swimming and you come up for a breath of air and you're ready to take that sip, and then someone puts you under the water.
Yeah.
At that one moment when you're like, and now I breathe.
Yeah.
People can melt so fast.
Yes.
Like very good fighters.
Yeah, it's like torture.
It's like torture.
Like you
yeah.
probably
Yeah.
could hold your breath for another 20
Yeah,
seconds,
totally.
but you expect
you were ready. Yeah, you were ready.
I'm gonna die now.
You were ready for the breath. And so I feel like in watching this, what he's teaching you, it'd be a very nice thing to add into the development of what you want to do and what other people want to do. If there's Muay Thai fighters out there, I don't know, it's kind of crazy. Like we were talking in the hotel, how Duuglas-Ittu was a clinch fighter, nightmare clinch fighter, but wasn't a puncher at all as a Lumpini champion. And now he's retired from Lumpini. He's a great puncher. Could you imagine if Duuglas-Ittu had could bring his boxing and his clinch together in Lumpini? It would have been unfightable.
Scary.
Right? Unfightable.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Anything else? It was a pretty exciting session.
It was a good session.
Yeah. Talk to the camera. You're like giving me the unconscious, like, I'm ready for my break, Kevin. I'm like, no, we're clinching up.
I'll be interested to voice this one actually, because my personal experience of it and Kevin's experience of it was very different. Kevin was like, that was amazing, and I'm like, I died. So
I thought you did very well.
It'll be interesting to see. Because I used to train with him many years ago, before I really had the eyes or the tie or the consciousness to like put it all into understanding. I love the things that I'm able to see now, which means I'll be able to point them out in my voiceover in the session, which is really cool.
Totally.
But for sure, if you're in Chiang Mai, this is
that's
who
what we
you
want to
train
say,
with.
actually. People often contact you, I just want to train boxing in Thailand. And a lot of people make fun of this, like, oh, you're going to Thailand, you're not going to study Muay Thai.
Thailand has amazing boxing.
Amazing boxing. There's not a lot to find, though. Like, Charchai Sasakun is the best boxing coach in Thailand. He's in Bangkok. If you're in Chiang Mai and you want to sharpen up your hands, come train with Nung.
Yep.
It's like a huge resource that's just sitting there.
Yeah.
There's
He's a good teacher, too. He's
so
very, like,
patient, detailed.
yeah.
And when he hits you with that loose-fingered thing, it's like, you're like,
Don't touch
you
me.
don't even have to, you don't even have to be convinced that it's a real solid technique.
I'm only going to shoot you a little bit. Like, just don't.
This is really incredible.
Make sure you nick the artery or something. I don't know.
Okay, so if you're listening to this on iTunes, that means you're a patron, because
Thank you.
patrons get the iTunes version of all our podcasts. And that means this is going to be followed with Sylvie's audio commentary of the session. If you're watching on YouTube, and the YouTube's just been up, our session will probably be put on in the Muay Thai library on Patreon, where you can watch the video in about 2 or 3 weeks, we're thinking. But if you're watching this on YouTube, become a patron. There's over 80 hours.
There's so much stuff. There's so much stuff that we're like, how is there so much in here? And we're the ones who put it in there.
You can study forever.
Yeah.
Even a single session you can study multiple times. And there's 80 hours worth. But it's the most ambitious documentary project in martial arts ever. There's no fighting sport, martial art, that's ever been this documented ever. This is going to be something that's very valuable 10, 20, 30 years from now.
Currently very valuable, but it'll just
currently
appreciate in value as it goes. Yeah.
Because a lot of these techniques are being lost, and some of these people, these great fighters, won't be teaching. So at least we have a documented hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. So okay, thank you. Cue music.